Hi, everyone. It's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. This week's Rutgers Rant is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. A big thank you to our sponsor and to all of our listeners for the continued support. Now let's get to the show.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insiders Keith Sargent and James Cratch. Let's start shopping.
Hello, everyone. Steve Politi here. Welcome back to the Rutgers Rant. Got to start with this. I was wrong. Rutgers did not have a hard time with Delaware. You guys were right on this one. Handled the Blue Hens 45-13. Thorough victory. And look, guys, we talked a lot about this before the season, that, Rutgers had a bunch of boxes to check for a successful year. The first one's checked. I mean, they started the season non-conference play 3-0, a perfect non-conference start. And not only that, but won the three games by a combined 89 points, didn't commit a single turnover while forcing 8. I mean, it's about as good a start to the season as they could have hoped, Cratch. I mean, when you look at what happened overall, I mean, we can nitpick, and we will nitpick on this podcast, but, the first box is checked.
No doubt. 3-0, and I think it goes back to what we kind of did last season. They went 3-6 in the Big Ten. Everyone said, if they only had those 3 non-conference games, they'd be going to a bowl. Now they've got the 3 non-conference games, so you're halfway home, 9 games to play, all in the league. You got to win 3 of them. You look at the schedule. Some teams look better than we expected. Some teams look worse than we expected. It seems like it's all on the table for the Scarlet Knights. And not only that, but the offense finally kind of woke up on Saturday. Yes, it was Delaware, but Delaware's a good football team. And they got a little bit of momentum. I mean, everyone coming into the year wanted 3-0 versus 3-0 in the big house. We have it.
Right. And it was you, Cratch, lighting a fire under Sean Gleason to have him do some guruing. He did some guruing against guruing. Can't spell guru without RU. Against Delaware. Yeah, I'll save that for a column later. We talk a lot about Noah Vedral. He's now completing 71.3% of his passes. I mean, Sarge, you and I were joking in the press box that he was having his Phil Simms game, i.e. the Simms in the Super Bowl, and he was 22 of 25. It was pretty close. I mean, he was I think he was, 21 and 26. Threw the ball long, threw the ball short. Short passes are still the staple of his offense, but, clearly they're not afraid to throw downfield with him. Here's my question for you, Sarge. Is this going to work against Michigan and elite defense, what they did against Delaware?
Cratch, fans, I mean, you just have to look at his film review because, he brings up the point. And again, it's probably the best thing that we have on our website all week is film review. But he did bring up the point that, in some of those deep passes that Vedral hit on, they had – 7 or even 8 guys, back in pass pro, which meant they only had 2 or 3, wide receivers out. Can that work against Michigan? Michigan's defensive backs are way better than Delaware's. Okay, I think that goes without saying. They're going to be way better on an island than Delaware. So I don't know. I mean, I think the one thing, and Cratch again pointed out in his film review, getting the ball out quick to Crookshank, to Bo Melton, Shameen Jones, guys like that, get him out of space. Vedral's very good at it. He's been doing it for 2 years. He's very good at it. Those plays work. I think we're going to see an array of that. Again, they're going to have to establish the running game, way better than they have. And, can it work? I don't know if we've seen enough evidence that their big playability is here to stay. It was Delaware.
Yeah, what I love about, so this is an honest to God truth about the film review. One of our Rutgers insiders just texted us this morning asking, this is a legit question, is Shiano okay with you doing this, Cratch? Because, it seems like you're doing Michigan a favor when you break this stuff down. So I was just picturing Jim Harbaugh logging on to NJ.com this morning and go, holy crap, they're max protecting on that play. Just imagine. I was just imagining. Yeah, Christ, do you feel like, are you worried that by this high level of analysis that you were really aiding the Wolverines in this game?
No, I'm not. It always cracks me up that when people suggest that, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure the Michigan Wolverines, with their army of analysts, have figured out all of this stuff before little old James Cratch in Morristown, New Jersey, watching a TV copy. They've got the all 22 copy stuff. The other thing I want to add about the offense is, for the first time, and I've harped on it a lot on this podcast, it felt like the Johnny Langan package seamlessly, naturally fit into the flow of the offense. For the first time ever, it didn't feel like they were shoehorning him into a game or forcing the ball to him. He didn't have a rush because they ran that direct snap look, which I liked. He threw a pass, incomplete pass on a trick play. He had a couple of catches. He might be the best tight end on the team.
Oh, certainly. That wasn't true or false. I was going to ask you that. I mean, he's a decent pass catcher.
And the thing is, he is going to become the more often Johnny Langan is on the field to run block or to go out in a pattern or to just be there, the more potent it's going to be, because teams are going to start to fall asleep. When he's actually on the field frequently and nothing crazy happens, then when you try to do something crazy, you've got an element of surprise. So I think that they finally figured out a way to utilize his skills without slowing everything down and forcing it.
Right. You also pointed out that Isaiah Pacheco was running more north-south in this game, something we've talked about a lot. What I liked about the offense as well, they got a lot of guys involved, Sarge. You saw get this short passes to Shameen Jones and I mean Brandon Sanders. we knew he would eventually make an impact. You have to really like what they've got in that kid as well.
Yeah, and let's give a little inside baseball here, because all summer James Cratch has been dying to write Brandon Sanders throughout training camp. We kind of hinted at this during the summer where there were some Shiano rules during training camp. There were a few guys who we could not write about. Yeah. If we requested them on a daily basis, who we saw flash, and we Cratch has been on the Brandon Sanders bandwagon since he arrived. Loved the story, and then post game, as media scrum, Cratch goes to get Aaron Lewis. He's doing his job. And then I go over to get Brandon Sanders, and, I just pepper him with 5 or 6 questions, and he was great. So then I ended up stealing this one story that Cratch wanted to write on the beat, Brandon Sanders, and I felt so bad about it. And, Brandon Sanders is a great story, and we've seen now at this point, that he's very versatile. He can play. Again, you can't have enough weapons, in the pass game. They have so many more, wide receivers than they did, pre Greg Schiano.
Right, and that was a big plus in that game. Again, not sure if it'll hold up against Michigan. Here's one thing that didn't go well, and we all thought that after the defense was excellent against a very good Syracuse running attack, then perhaps they solved that problem. It did not. I was really surprised at how well Delaware ran the ball. I guess, it pointed out that they had a huge offensive line. Delaware, they looked like a Big Ten team, a very good running back. Still, I'm kind of surprised how the linebackers didn't play well. I'm kind of surprised at the missed tackles and poor positioning. Now you get Michigan, who's rushed for 15 touchdowns and 350 yards a game. Cratch, is this something that can be solved before this game?
Yes and no. One of the things that struck me was Delaware just blocked guys. That was pretty much what they did. They got a hat on a hat and up front, and then they had a couple of mesh point plays. Rutgers will kind of get caught up in the wash. There was a couple times where I think that 2 linebacker look, which Rutgers has used a lot. I get it. It makes sense for their personnel, but it happened several times on Saturday. If those guys if the Michigan gets to the second level and blocks them, or those guys are a second off reading the play, they're going to have a hard time getting to the edge. It was one of the big runs. Tyshawn Fogg just couldn't get to the sideline, basically taps the guy's shoulders, trying to dive, make a high tackle, and the guys go past him already. Yeah. So I think that's going to be the issue, is that can they kind of get to the edge? Because Michigan is the best rushing attack in the Big Ten. So
by far, yeah, in the country right now.
They are in the country. They are running the ball. Zach Corum, it's early, but Zach Corum he's on a Heisman candidate type pace. They're running back. So, yeah, I think it's a major concern. I mean, I think if Rutgers sends, if they shed blocks, they've got a better chance. But that being said, I thought the linebackers did not play well. I thought the tackling was really poor. The tackling has been pretty good for the most part. It was a disaster under Chris Ash, but there's been some, here and there, some little moments where it's really struggled. Saturday was one of them.
If you're looking at positive, Sarge, Rutgers is now 4th in the nation in sacks after that game and 2nd in completion percentage allowed. They're only allowing opponents to complete 46% of the passes. Has a lot to do with the competition, obviously, but the defense isn't necessarily playing poorly in both facets. I mean, what do you think overall going against Michigan with this defense?
Why do you go to me when you say if you're looking for positives, by the way?
Because you're such a ray of sunshine that most
Another positive too, and you didn't bring it up, is like the 3 games in a row, no turnovers, first time since 2009. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that when you look at even since the day he arrived. I mean, just the attention to details and the little things that they're able to do. Greg Schiano said since the beginning that if they can get to the fourth quarter with a shot to win the game, that's basically their goal in these types of games. And that's going to be the goal again. You're going to see, if it's vanilla, so be it. They are not going to do things to be, to be turnover prone and to put themselves in a position to lose a game. Graciano talked about it again. Noah Vedral talked about it. 71%. He brought up the percentage of teams that win games when they don't commit a turnover over a 20-year study. He brought it up 71%. I'd have to do it myself, but I mean, clearly Greg Schiano has, is sunk into the players to the point where they are not going to do anything to try to turn the ball over.
Yeah, and the big picture with this, folks, as well. I mean, it's just, I wrote about this in my comments for the game. It's a big game again. The big picture. Greg Schiano promised to bring back the sense that you could win a game like this. You could compete against Michigan, and they took Michigan to triple overtime. Last year. So while they might not win this game, I think just going to the big house, having a chance, people are going to tune in. Just to see what's going to happen, to see if Michigan's as good as they think, but also to see if Rutgers is as good as this record. So there's a lot to like about the program where it is right now and heading to Ann Arbor. All right, let's dive into true or false. You guys know the rules here. We got a lot of them this week, so we will discuss these topics at the end. True or false? We are not going to see Gavin Wimsatt in a game this season. Cratch, true or false?
False.
Sarge?
False.
False. All right, I'm going to go false too, but that was an opportunity. And 3 other quarterbacks played. All right, true or false? Rutgers is planned to keep Noah Vedral upright against Delaware. Will work in the Big Ten. Cratch, true or false?
False.
All right, Sarge?
I mean, if they keep floating him in the pocket, which was a welcome change, true.
Okay, I guess it depends on the competition as well, but I'm going to say true there as well. All right, Johnny Langan is the team's best tight end. We touched on this already. Cratch, true or false?
True.
Sarge?
False.
False, yeah. I don't know, but I don't know where the other ones went in that game, so I'm going to have to say true for now because they were invisible against Delaware. All right, true or false? Michigan is the best team Rutgers will play this season. James Cratch, true or false?
False.
Sarge?
False.
All right, I'm going to go false as well. Next one. Nope. Penn State is the best team Rutgers will play this season. Beat Auburn. Cratch, true or false?
False.
Sarge?
False.
Okay, I'm going to go, for now, I'm going to say true on that one. They look really good in Auburn. The final one, come on, it's still Ohio State, people. Cratch, true or false?
False.
What? What? I don't even have to look at the schedule now.
Illinois, Cratch is a big
Wait, who's left?
All right. I'll let Cratch answer, but that's a true. That's
true. All right. Well,
I think there's a reasonable chance that Wisconsin is the best team on the schedule.
Okay.
I look back to the Penn State-Wisconsin game. Penn State won the game. Wisconsin shot themselves in the foot repeatedly. They were going in, fumbles sometimes. They should have won that game. I think they're going to thump Notre Dame this weekend in Chicago. I think there's a very good chance that coming into the year, I had Wisconsin ranked, I think, 6th in the country. I think they're really good with that run game, with everything. I think there's a very good chance they are the best team in the Big Ten. They're just going to have to dig themselves out from that opening loss to Penn State.
It is amazing that we can have there are 4 legitimate answers to that question that aren't ridiculous. That tells you, and out of 9 games, that tells you of what the challenge is ahead of this team for sure. All right, true or false? Rutgers will beat a ranked team at some point this season. Correct. True or false?
False.
Sarge?
False.
False. Yeah, I'm going false. They will have 5 shots though. True or false?
I kind of thought. Wait, real quick. I know I'm breaking the rules here, but I kind of thought that Rutgers had a chance against Penn State. I watched them the other night, especially that game's at Penn State. That's going to be really tough.
They look pretty good. All right, true or false? The Ohio State game will be a true sellout. Cratch.
False.
Sarge.
False.
Yeah, false. It's tough to get that number up from 20,000 season ticket holders. All right. Finally, true or false? Rutgers will not make a bowl because the spotted lanternflies will have taken over the planet before then. True or false, Cratch?
Yeah, it's true when you go to practice every day. Holy Toledo.
It is. I cannot.
I mean, they're winning, right? And with all this, kill them when we see them.
They are clearly. We have to, just put this in perspective for the fans because they just won't get. I guess they do because apparently there were a lot at the game too.
Oh, the tailgate! It was crazy.
Yeah. It is insane at practice how many spotted lanternflies there are.
It must be ground zero for the spotted lanternflies are right there in Piscataway, New Jersey. Who would have guessed that? All right, so let's go to Gavin Wimsatt, guys. We, obviously he was a big story for weeks. This was an opportunity for him to play. I thought maybe he'd get a series, especially late in the game. They stuck with Noah Vedral to the very end. Cole Snyder played a little in the fourth quarter. I think Evan Simon had 1 snap, Cratch. I mean, so when do you think we're going to see him if we don't see him here?
I would think that maybe Maryland is probably the most realistic. I mean, as I wrote after the game on Saturday, at this point, you're not debuting against Michigan or Ohio State or Michigan State. Northwestern, not very good, but that's still going to be a really tough game for them. Then you've got an open date, Illinois. I think around that point is where you probably would start thinking about getting them ready, but still have 6 weeks in the program. But I think the only reason why I said false was just because last game of the year, Maryland, you might not be bowl eligible. They might not be bowl eligible. Who knows what happens? Maybe you just throw him in there because it's the end of the year and you're playing out the string and you want to get his feet wet. But that's the only reason. That's the only place I can really think of right now that seems terribly realistic for him to play. So I think there's a good chance he doesn't play.
All right, Sarge, and we talked about the schedule with the teams. When you saw the Big Ten scores this week, were you more encouraged that they could get the 6 wins or discouraged? I mean, Northwestern gets thumped by Duke. Maryland and Illinois played just an awful game. I mean, what do you think?
Encouraged. Yeah. I think 6 wins is absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
even though
Northwestern,
the top teams are pretty darn good. Michigan State beats Miami. I mean, that's a good result.
Yeah. Illinois, Northwestern, Maryland, the Illinois and Northwestern games are not going to be these imposing, crowds where they're going to be. Right. They won in the Carrier Dome, so they can win on the road. And I think, from a matchup standpoint, I think they're going to be, at least on par with both of those teams. And again, Maryland at home at the end of the year, with their bowl lives on the line. I think that's a win.
Yeah, that'll be a wild game if they're at 5 wins. That would be something exciting. All right, anything else we want to touch on here, Cratch, and true or false before we move on to insider questions?
I think we got it all.
All right. Insider questions, as always. I want to thank you guys for contributing. The text service has been going great here early in this conference slate. We've got a lot of great questions from you, so thanks again. All right. This is a really good one because we've talked a lot about this. Do you believe Adam Korsak will get drafted by an NFL team? I have to imagine sometime somebody would spend a draft pick, but punters sometimes get the short end of the stick. It's true. I don't think he'll get drafted, but I'm just coming out of watching the Jets game. And you realize that there are a lot of really mediocre punters in the NFL. I saw a couple of bad kicks in that game. Kratz, will this style translate to the NFL?
I don't know if it will. I mean, I tend to think it could, because think about it's obviously very different, quarterbacks versus punters, but think about all the college quarterbacks that people said, oh, this guy could never play in the NFL. And then Lamar Jackson, Kyler, they're playing. That being said,
hey, Rutgers Rant listeners, it's Steve Politi from NJ Advanced Media. We appreciate you supporting this podcast and the sponsors who help us continue doing it. This week's podcast is brought to you by the New Brunswick Development Corporation. If you listen to this show, you love Rutgers. And if you love Rutgers, you know the positive impact that DevCo has made on the campus and its community. We thank the New Brunswick Development Corporation for its continued support and for helping make this podcast possible. Now back to the show.
Ed, I've talked to him a little bit about this in the past. He has never come out and told me directly, but my gut feeling is Adam Korsak probably could punt like NFL punters do. I go back to the crazy every year, like in spring training, the Mariners would have like a team home run derby and Ichiro would hit 50 home runs just because he could do it. He just didn't think it was best for the team and him to do it during the season. I think Adam Korsak might be able to, what he does is the best thing for Rutgers football to win, obviously. But if it's just him trying to go to the NFL, I think he probably could punt the ball like the conventional American style and go from there. So I think that's also something to consider.
Right. I would love to see him get a shot at it. And it would take a coach who, the problem is so few coaches are willing to, break the norm. And the norm is hang time. The norm is,
Well, the good thing for Adam is there's a guy in New England.
There's a guy,
who likes to do things like that.
That would be the perfect match. Yeah. And he's got, he certainly Belichick listens to Greg Schiano, and Greg Schiano cannot say best punter he's ever been around. He says it every time you ask him about it. So there's a possibility there. All right. Alex from Marlboro wants to know, as the game went on, there was plenty of rotation at receiver. Where are Washington and Youngblood? I mean, I saw Isaiah Washington was out there at least. Sarge, I think we're just at the point that Josh Youngblood's not in the rotation, man. It's just he's one of these guys that we get asked about every week. He's just not practicing well enough to be on the field.
So, Crookshank, before he got to Rutgers, when he was at Wisconsin, was a mediocre wide receiver. Taekwon Underwood did wonders with him a year ago. Youngblood, same thing, mediocre wide receiver at Kansas State, amazing returner. Well, maybe Youngblood hasn't progressed at the rate that Crookshank did, a year ago. So he's just not, we saw him all summer. He wasn't really a factor. So I'm not, too surprised at this point that it's been a little bit slower than a lot of people expected. Washington, freshman year, showed a lot of promise. Last year took a big dip back, looked good in the spring game, but it was a spring game. There was, not a whole lot of stuff going on. Again, Shameen Jones and Bo Melton have earned it, and Crookshank as well. So you have three guys, and then Brandon Sanders. So you have four guys ahead of him right now getting a piece of the pie.
I think this is also, not a cautionary tale, it's probably not the right term, but the transfer portal is not a given. Obviously 2020, you bring in Brendan White, you bring in Mike Dwumfor, Cedrice Paulant starts a bunch of games. Obviously he's a JUCO guy. They make an impact. This year, Ifan Maja is, a good rotational tackle, made some plays, but beyond that, Brandon Sanders, obviously big touchdown catch. They're not getting the same impact from the transfers this year. So I think people just have to realize that it's going to be an ebb and flow every year. Sometimes you're going to really get instant impact from the portal. Sometimes you're not.
And you have to remember, they have the best kick returner in the country. So that limits Youngblood's opportunities on kicks. And I love that. And if you haven't watched this, guys, go to Cratch's film review and watch the clip from Crookshank's punt return for a touchdown, because I didn't see it at the time, but now the Cratch points it out. It is just hilarious. The guys that Delaware has trying to tackle the fastest guy in the Rutgers team. I mean, there are legitimately 350-pound. I mean, it is just laugh out loud funny when you see it.
Yeah, I felt it was. I totally get it. Like they had 3 punts blocked in the spring, right. and I think one already in the first 2 games. Rutgers blocks a punt. That's what they do. So they put all the big guys on the field to kind of protect the punter. And then they kick the ball to Crookshank. It's like, oh, we've got a bunch of fat guys on the field. And like, I felt bad. Like, those guys are getting, like, they're diving on the ground, just Delaware had immense size. So what you said, it looked like Michigan, helmet, all this, the color was a little bit off, but man, those poor guys, they never thought they were going to be on a punt coverage team in college football, and now they're here, and they got Aaron Crookshank. I just feel bad for them.
Yeah, that was remarkable. All right, we got two questions. One from JP, a good friend of the pod, about whether or not Schiano and Gleason have been holding the offense back before getting the Big Ten play, not showing their cards early. Sarge, do you think there's any credence to that these guys are limiting the playbook through these first three games, and we're going to see a different offense come on Saturday?
No. No. That's not. No. I think the offense is what it is, and I think it's going to be quick hitters and not do stupid things that are going to give you a high percentage of a turnover. I think that this is what the offense is.
I think you could go vanilla against Temple to be ready for Syracuse, but when you're scoreless at halftime in a dogfight with another Power 5 team on the road in a dome, you really can't, keep your cards. You can't you can't be cute at that point. So I feel like at that point, it's all out the window. You got to go.
Cratch, I agree. But again, Greg Schiano, what does he keep on saying? What did he say all last year? He wants to get to the fourth quarter with a chance to win the game. That's not a coach who's going to want to all of a sudden go, Mike Martz all of a sudden and go, throwing the ball 50 times and trying to go big play to take shots is just not, it's just not in his DNA.
All right. Along these lines, good question from Kevin Fine, another friend of the pod. All things considered, Rutgers and Michigan played fairly even game last year with triple overtime. It was more than fairly even. Rutgers should have won that game. Now we kind of feel like Michigan's on a higher level. What improvements has Michigan made with Harbaugh that is setting them apart now, Cratch? When you look at that team now, why is it different than last year's team?
I think a lot of it has his culture, I mean, they basically, but to bring Harbaugh back, he basically had to fire his entire staff. They got younger, they got better recruiters. I think the offensive scheme is working better. Look, I also think, remember last year, they turned to Cade McNamara in that game. So, Michigan found its quarterback down 17-0 against Rutgers. I think that's a big part of it. I think, Michigan had some offensive line issues. I think at the end of the year, at the end of the day, it was COVID. I just think I keep on going back to this. I think Rutgers handled 2020 and COVID-19 a lot better than pretty much any team in the Big Ten did. And I think that's also part of the thing, too. Now it's a normal year. I think Harbaugh's coaching inspired. They've stuck to this run game that's working for them. But at the end of the day, we've always said this on the show, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, only real teams Rutgers has played, since I've been on the beat, where the talent deficiency is immense. Michigan's still got more guys than Rutgers at the moment.
Right. I know this is an audio pod, Poe.
Okay.
But
you just figured that out now? Okay.
Did you just see Cratch as he's making that point, which is a good point? He held up a football in his left hand.
That was something, yeah.
Oh. I mean,
prop comedy. I know it was good.
It was
really, and when he did it, I was like, yes, I get that. That's really helped me understand the point. Yeah.
The ball security. You're not at Rutgers practices enough. It's chin, Cratch. It's chin. You got to hold the ball up tight. You just it like.
I'm pretty confident with my kung fu grip and my hands here. I'm good. Just so you guys know, like I'm not like
that
some
ball
like
is the program
psycho who carries a football around all day like it's the program here. Trying to get the sound quality up, tape it in the closet, and football just bounce out of the closet. And it is NCAA too. Just want to make that clear.
Okay, no, I like it. That's good. I hope let's keep doing that, Cratch. It makes me feel better about our football podcast. All right, John in Marlboro wants to know: Rutgers avoided a WTF loss in its out-of-conference schedule. With Winsat already on the team, is it too early to say that Rutgers has avoided the implosion recruiting-wise that destroyed Flood and Ash's strong preseason classes during their tenure? I don't. It's a great question, John. I don't know that The schedule is what's really going to keep the class together. I think Greg Schiano is a bigger factor. Kratch, Sarge, you want to take this? Do you guys think that there's still a chance of this, if the wheels fall off, that they could lose a lot of these recruits?
I think there's less of a chance just because I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. These kids all committed to Rutgers without having ever met, for the most part, having met Schiano in person, met any of the coaches in person, been to the campus, seen the campus. Some of them drove through if they're local, or like Gavin Wimsatt and his family kind of flew here to do a guided tour of the area. So if you're willing to sign on with those circumstances, I don't necessarily think that, losing 7 of the next 9 games is going to knock you off your grind to want to be a Rutgers Scarlet Knight. Could a guy or two leave? Sure, definitely. But again, if a guy or two leaves, Greg Schiano is going to be competitive to go get a guy or two that's committed elsewhere to enter the class. It's not going to be like the Ash era where it's just you throw your hands up and all of a sudden random, high school tennis players from the Buffalo area are suddenly getting offers at the last moment as defensive tackle prospects.
All right, a couple more. Here's a good one. Is there any food that Michigan is really known for that you guys are excited about eating when traveling to the game? Like Rutgers is known for food trucks and fat cat sandwiches. Anything similar? I got to tell you, unfortunately, while Ann Arbor is probably the best Big Ten road town, I would make that case. We're not staying in Ann Arbor. We're staying at the Detroit Marriott at the airport, which kind of sucks.
Whoa.
Well, I mean,
that's a pretty good hotel bar.
There's a Bob Evans right around.
You can walk to Bob Evans.
Yeah, but I've been on Open Table now for like an hour and a half. I can't find a restaurant that's within 20 miles. It's decent. So we're not. I mean, yeah, it's not great. Put it that way. I mean, maybe
It's what's the hotel restaurant called? North, I think.
I'm going to be eating there again. Yes.
Yeah, we're familiar with it, folks.
We did, yes. The bar will be hopping. But Zingerman's Deli is the one place in Ann Arbor. If you guys are going to the game, that is from what I've ordered from Zingerman's catalog over the years. I had a couple sandwiches there with a friend, Mike Rosenberg, who works for Sports Illustrated out there. It's just a great place. You should try it if you're up there. But we're going to be struggling in Detroit. All right, and finally, this is the kind of question I like. This is really getting to the crux of the issues here. Is there a worse song than Barely Breathing performed by Duncan Sheik? A worse song by anyone ever? Sarge, I got to tell you, I after driving with you in the car for 3.5 hours to Syracuse, I feel comfortable with your music tastes. I trust you. I trust your judgment on this. You help tune the radio. I know you're a classic rock guy. I know you've got some good music taste. Is that the worst song of all time?
It's up there. Oof.
I only taste the saline when I kiss away your tears. That doesn't change your mind?
My big bugaboo is Love Shack.
Really? Yeah, oh my gosh, that's a great song.
Yeah. Oh.
Well. No, I just take it right back. I said
on a future pod, but yeah, not a big fan of that one. But
let's save this for June when we got nothing.
All right. Anyway, I think it's probably top 5 worst songs. Michigan preview. All right, Kratch, we talked about it a little bit. This seems like Bo Schembechler level of football here. Is this finally Harbaugh's team? Is this the team that ends the Ohio State streak? Is this the team that gets to the playoffs? Is it that good?
I don't know if they're that good. It would be a hell of a story if they were. After all the mayhem around Harbaugh, and people thought he was going to be fired, and Feinbaum writing him off before the season even starts. If this is the team that beats Ohio State, it'd be a heck of a story. I think they're really good. I think I thought going into the year I had them ranked. A lot of people didn't. I thought this was a 10-win team potentially. They got Wisconsin, they got Ohio State, Penn State. Those are going to be tough games, but I think they're on their way, obviously. I think this is a really good football team, a team that's probably going to end the year ranked somewhere in the top 20, go to a really good bowl game. The question is just how good is it going to be? And I think that we're going to learn a lot from this about Rutgers, but also Michigan, because if they really handle the Scarlet Knights on Saturday, I'm inclined to believe they are that good.
All right. Who wants to go first? Predictions. What do you think, Sarge? What do you got?
I've been doing everything I can to come up with a scenario that Rutgers wins the game. I think they will. It'll be a game in the fourth quarter, which is kind of what I've been harping on, all pod. I don't think they win. 28-21 Michigan.
Wow, low scoring game and well within the 19-point spread. Kratch, where are you going?
It's the spread is 19. That's high for me. I'm going to go 28-13 Michigan. I think this is going to be one of those games. Alabama used to play these games a lot back in the day, the early part of the Saban dynasty, where the game is competitive the whole time. The whole game you're sitting there thinking, well, if this and this happen, Rutgers is right back in it. They can win. The specter of victory hangs in the air the whole time, but you never really truly think for any moment that Rutgers is going to win the game. So I think it's going to be very, Rutgers might be within a score or within 2 scores the entire day, but you never just think they're going to be able to get over the hump. So I will go Michigan 28-13.
All right. Once again, I'm going in a different direction than you guys. Last week, it didn't pay off as I grabbed the mythical 21.5 points that we set for the Delaware game. I'm going to lay the 19 points. I just think that Michigan's really good. Not saying that Rutgers didn't make progress, and it certainly after last year it was a close game. I just think that in the big house, with the way they run the ball, it's not a good matchup for the Scarlet Knights. I'm looking at like a 38-17 kind of victory that will humble them some, but will certainly not damage all of the goals for the team will still be on the table when it's over. All right, what else we got here? We got some soccer stuff, right? Big win. Men's soccer beats Indiana. Women's soccer beats Penn State. What's going on out there in the rest of Scarlet Knight world?
Field hockey, beat Monmouth the other day. Big win for them. Volleyball is, kind of rolling through their non-conference schedule. Now the Big Ten, the real tests begin. So it's a great fall so far for Rutgers. Both soccer teams look like they're NCAA tournament bound. Field hockey should be as well. Although the field hockey NCAA tournaments is always kind of a tricky thing. You could be like ranked 6th in the country and not make it as an at-large. Volleyball probably a year or 2 away, but obviously they've got a lot of positive momentum now. They're playing on the rack, and football 3-0. So Rutgers is having a little moment. They had best year as a Big Ten member last year, and they've picked right up where they left off.
Is it soccer thing a surprise, Sarge? Men's soccer beating Indiana? That's
go back to the tape back in August. I think you asked a question, and I said, based on sources that, I heard that they were going to be very good. So McKeldry, I think we interviewed him early on, when his first day that he actually arrived. And, I was really impressed. I think he has a chance to be Pat Hobbs' best hire, to be honest. I mean, I think he's done a really good job with the program. Beating Indiana, was very impressive. Pablo Avila, I think, is 5th in the Big Ten in scoring. They have players. They have guys. I don't think it's a big surprise. I will say this, as we're talking about Olympic sports too, I have to say, I got approved to go to the Big Ten the men's hoops media day, which is in October.
Where's that?
Is in Indianapolis. So this will be my 6th time in Indianapolis, this year. It will be, all told, I'll be in Indianapolis 6 times, because we're also going to the Indiana game, and as Kratch has pointed out, we're actually staying in Indianapolis for the Illinois game, because it's a little bit easier to actually fly to Indianapolis than it is to Chicago and get to Illinois. Champaign, Illinois is, just a Siberia, on the beat. But 6 times, and I've already been to St. Elmo's on the first 3 trips. Do you think I could actually make it to St. Elmo's on the final 3, Politi?
Do I think? All I know is you text me a photo of the shrimp cocktail, I'm blocking you. I'm going to block your number. That's it. Just keep that in mind. You too, Kratch. I want none of the shenanigans with the shrimp cocktail. All right. That's all we got this week, folks. All 3 of us will be in Ann Arbor. It's a big, we'll all be up there. So maybe we'll see you around if you guys are making trips to the game. If not, we'll be back on Monday to break it all down. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.
You haven't heard enough from me yet, huh? Steve Politi here for one last thank you to this episode's sponsor, New Brunswick Development Corporation, and to listeners like you who make it all the way to the end of the show. We'll see you again soon.